I've been playing nothing except for Death Must Die over the past 2 weeks or so. This game's been out for 2.5 weeks. We picked it up pretty closely right after it launched. But it's pre 1.0. This game is early access. It is so much fun. If you haven't seen my introduction to this game before, it's kind of like a Hades themed game, but it's a Vampire Survivors kind of gameplay with a tiny bit of gear as your meta progression. So in between rounds, this is the kind of gear that you're going to be using in order to like level up your character, so to speak. But all the in-game decisions are what your boons are from your gods, what your playstyle is going to be, depending on the kind of gear you equip outside of the game. If you want a better introduction for the game, take a look at the description of this video, and that will lay out the whole game for you. If you're interested in this video, that means that you are a beginner who wants to get better. Or maybe you're an experienced player who wants to know what are the advanced mechanics at the very end of the beginner guide that we're going to talk about today. We spent a good couple days building a document for you. We've built a pastebin document here. This is also living in my Discord if you'd like to jump over to my Discord and become a part of that community. But I'm putting this on Pastebin because I don't have a better place to put it, and I want it to be as widely accessible as possible. We are literally going to talk about this Pastebin. If you'd like to look at it, it's in the description of the video. You can always just click on it yourself. But let's talk about the guide to Death Must Die, why we put these things in here, and how that influences your gameplay. So we've been playing this game for about almost 100 hours at this point. We clear 30 darkness daily. 30 darkness is a bit easier now than it used to be. They nerfed the difficulty. I guess they buffed the difficulty. They made the game easier, and it is the intent of the developers to make the game harder in the future. This game looks like it has a bright future. There's only about 4 developers working on it right now, but they already have a roadmap. They have had some events that are happening in December, and they're interested in getting a whole bunch of feedback from their Discord, their official Discord, and it looks like they already make changes based on the feedback that they get. So the game looks good. I want new players to feel like they know what the hell is going on. There's a lot of information in this game that is not immediately accessible. There is some wording that needs to be cleaned up, and slowly but surely, hopefully, they will clean that up because they've already cleaned up a tiny bit of it. So the point of this beginner guide is to get you playing the game and to get you on par with the bug fixes and the game knowledge that me and my community have already built up about this game. Because I want you to feel like you're in the know, because I feel like I'm in the know. So let's pull up this document here. It is the first thing you should know at the very top is BRA refers to banishes, rerolls, alterations. If you played Hades before, you know exactly what that is, but I digress. It's split into sections. We have the before starting a round, some very, very basic information. Gear, what's gear? 1, 2, 3. We have during a round, the kinds of questions that you might find yourself asking during a round itself. Banish, rerolls, alterations. Can you game the system? What kind of god should I select? You'll note in here that I have a couple things noted with November 2023, because even though today is December 1st, we built this document during November, and this is like meta information. This is information about like how you could best play the game. This is subject to change, but you'll note every time that it says November 2023, that is subject to change. Pardon my cough. I'm like getting over being cold. We have a gearing section because that's the meta progression for this game. We have some advanced game mechanics at the very bottom. And I think that's about it. Oh, we got one more thing here. The very bottom thing is the current best build or best synergy in the game. There are lots of things that are very, very strong, but I think this is important enough to call out to new players so they know like a backbone of something that can pretty much hard carry you through any of your runs if you get these couple components set up. So let's scroll back up to the very top. During or before starting round, let's go number 1. This will be all split up into YouTube chapters as well, so feel free to skip around as well. When you play a Vampire Survivors style game, or when you play a roguelike or roguelite game, you have meta progression. So you have a 20-minute run, you kill the boss, you reset, that's the entire gameplay loop. But when you play these kinds of games, you have meta progression. In Hades, you have meta progression because you unlock new guns, you unlock new boons that you can give to yourself, you unlock new trinkets or whatever I think they're called. You unlock new stuff that you get to play with. And this has just a tiny component of an action RPG, like a loot-based Diablo, Path of Exile, Grim Dawn, Last Epoch kind of thing. And your gear looks like this. We have gear that doesn't have prefixes and suffixes on it. It might, I don't really know, but it's got text on it, and it has alteration dice. It has master offer chance, +1 projectile, spell speed, which we'll talk about later, life, luck percent, movement speed, armor, all these good things. And we even have a shop right here as well. So this gear stays on your character in between rounds, and that is the meta progression of your character, of your account. Number 2, is the shop useful? Yeah, the shop's not garbage. You would often find yourself thinking like, oh, the shop's bad, I'm going to get all my best items from the bosses. And the bosses do drop unique items and mythic items. Mythic is like the highest rarity of those items other than uniques. But the shop can also offer lots of good stuff. You should note that the shop resets between every run. I think it's 1 minute minimum for your runs, unless you die very, very early. So you can check it in between runs and try to find some good items. I would recommend looking for good weapons for your character as well. So up here, have a weapon for your new character. As you unlock your characters, it's a lot easier to play your characters if they have weapons. Don't be like me. Next up is, which character can you pick? Are they different? Yes, we have 5 characters here. Play the game, just keep playing in order to unlock them. There's nothing specific that you need to do to unlock all 5 of them. Eventually 6 when they put the next one in the game. Your signs come from completing achievements. What does a sign mean? A sign's kind of like a loadout. Down here at the campfire, you see that I can select my 5 different characters, and for each of my characters, I have these signs that I've unlocked for my characters. These signs are based on achievements. They're literally Steam achievements. I'll show you what those look like in just a moment. But this is like, you gain attack damage every 3 levels. You gain armor every 3 levels. You got some adept, rarity, expert stuff going on. You get +8 revivals, but minus 333% maximum life. No, this does not put your life to 0. Remember, when you're reducing stuff, just like Path of Exile or Last Epoch, it's multiplicative instead of additive. So it's minus 333% life. It doesn't put you to 0. It doesn't even put you to 1. So that is what those loadouts look like there, and those are the differences between these. Some meta information here. Most people say that Scotty is like the best. She's got lots of good stuff going on, and her apprentice spec is one of the strongest things in the game. It just gives you tons of good value. The apprentice spec is a random skill that you have gains +1 level every 2 character levels that you gain. So if you get to level 30, it's kind of like you got to level 45 because you gain +1 level every 2 levels. Kind of. It's random. So this is very good value, but there's lots of stuff that you can do instead. So Kront seems to be quite weak relative to the others. He's definitely still playable. He's focused on attack damage in some places. He's got a little bit less movement speed. He's a little bit clunky. There's not really a reason to play Kront. He's fine. He's totally fine, but in my opinion, he's definitely the weakest one. Questions that you would have during a round itself. Should you kill monsters or should you explore? This is one of the big things where Death Must Die differentiates from other Vampire Survivor games, style games that I've played so far, which is like 2 style games, because I'm pretty new to the genre. It's a very wide open map because there's no boundaries, there's no upper, bottom, left, right. You just explore. So early on, you don't need to kill a bunch of skeletons. You don't stand still. You explore. You go find shrines, and the shrines give you permanent damage buffs and speed and movement speed. Maybe they give you banished rerolls and alterations. Maybe they give you items and some sweet items. This is a big thing that keeps the game interesting, at least in my opinion. You don't just stand still and kill monsters in a very small area. You explore. You just like keep going off in one direction, and you click on these things as you find them. And then eventually you're going to get swarmed by monsters. So I clicked a shrine. What happened? Note that anytime you click a shrine, you can also click tab. Clicking tab will pull up a list of all your boons on the left side of your screen and a list on the right side of the screen. The list on the right side of the screen is everything that you've clicked on recently. So if you click on a shrine, don't know what happened, hit tab. The enemy's health is changing colors. There's 2 things that happen. Green is curse. It's a mechanic that has to do with Mort. It's like a little detonation. It's like the health bar is gonna be green. After a second or so, it pops. Blue is a barrier. Once the barrier is gone, every attack from you will stun that monster. So once the barrier is gone, you can just stand still and punch the monster. He's never going to have a chance to counterattack because you're just going to keep stunning him over and over. Should you use Q or the toggle auto attack? I'd recommend using I'd recommend using left click because there is a movement attack penalty. While you are attacking, you move slower. So I'd rather just use the left click instead of using Q. That's my recommendation to you. I asked a lot of people on Discords what piece of advice they wish they had when they were new players, and I was surprised how often I saw this. So here's the best piece of advice, according to a bunch of people on Discord. I keep getting hit. What do I do? dash. So when you dash, you're invulnerable. So save your dashes for when you are avoiding taking damage or when you're avoiding a telegraphed attack, because dashes have iframes in which you cannot take damage. So that's great to know. This is some meta information here. Number 6. How much time do I have? What are the events that I need to know about? I think the most important event for like a brand new player would be like the first 2 here. So like at the 4-minute mark, you need some clear speed. You need to know that there's a bunch of slimes and you're going to be boxed into a small area, and you need to have some kind of AoE damage in order to kill those slimes. Pretty much anything. Maybe gem high, maybe like some breath of fire from summer, anything. Just like something other than your basic attack in order to kill all the slimes, and you'll be very happy about that. And then here's a list of the other things that spawn as well. Moving on to the next section, banish, reroll, alteration. There's a couple good pieces of information here regarding like, can you game this system? What god should I select? What is boon quality? So let's jump through these real quick. What do they do? If you've never seen a system like this, you can go ahead and read this. Can you get more? Yes. So part of your gear, part of the point of your gear is to get more banish, rerolls, and alterations. If you click B, you'll see your character sheet shows up in game. At the bottom left, you'll see exactly how many banish, reroll, alterations you have here. So my Nixie, for example, has 6, 3, and 9. And I would recommend at least having 3, 3, and 3 as a baseline for your characters. Having 3 banish, 3 reroll, 3 alterations is a great starting point. I like to have lots of alterations because having lots of alterations mean like you can kind of force whichever combination of 3 gods you want in order to do the thing that you're trying to do. Because I like trying new builds and trying new combinations of stuff. Can you game the system? Yeah, kind of. You should know that once you select an attack, you will no longer be offered an attack boon from other gods. If you select Mort's attack, you won't get an attack offer from anyone else. Same thing with dash, exactly the same. Some boons have prerequisites. These are intuitive. You've probably figured this out, even if you've never seen it explicitly written out. So serendipity gives you % luck. This boon from Mort will only appear if you have a luck-based boon already. I think these are the only 2. There might be another one in the game, but these are 2 very important ones. They both have to do with Mort. Mort's very strong, and they're also both very, very strong boons. So if you're trying to make these show up, these are the prerequisites for it. Next up, this is meta information, you know, because it says November 2023 on it. Once you take a boon from 3 separate gods, you'll only see those 3. So you have 3 gods. I think in Hades, you have 4 plus Hermes. So you're like 4.5, 4 plus Hermes. In this game, you, excuse me. In this game, you have 3 plus the Fates. So Fates is like your meta god that's always available. I would recommend Justice in general. It's very good defenses, especially if you're a brand new player. All the gods are pretty good. Winter doesn't offer too much damage. I would stay away from her. She's yeah, she's really weak. She freezes enemies, I guess. Some people really like her. I think she's quite weak, but I would recommend against Winter if you're a brand new player. If you're a tryhard, skip to the very end of this guide where we talk about Mort, because in my opinion, Mort is just like standout the best god in the game currently, November 2023. Should use boons for damage or survival. I would go for damage first because remember there's a clear speed check at 4-minute mark. What is boon quality? So there's 4 qualities for all of your boons, and there's also levels for each of your boons. This is very similar to Hades once again. The lowest tier is novice, and then adept, and then expert, and then master. Upgrade offers. If a god offers upgrade your thing from novice to adept or adept to expert, they cannot go to master. So what that means is master, if you get a master offer, you got to consider, should I take this? Because I can't upgrade to it later. It's kind of like one and done. Legendary offers are their own thing altogether. Technically, a legendary offer can only spawn off a master offer. And what that means is on your gear, for example, which we'll get to in just a second here, I tend to prioritize master offer chance because master offers are strong and they also kind of offer legendary offers at the same time. Start with the gearing part next. Price to gearing, we said 3 of each for this. Can I use the same gear in all 5 characters, just swapping it around? No. So Death Must Die has bind on equip. It's not as annoying as you might think it is because there's also a weight class system that goes on. So a heavy gear can only be worn by the Knight and Barbarian. Light gear can only be worn by Assassin and Sorceress. And medium gear can only be worn by the Warrior. When they introduce the Ranger, the next class in the game, the 6th one that's not out yet, it's probably going to be medium as well because, you know, deductive reasoning. What should be on your gear? This is a list of the things that I tend to put on it. You can kind of min-max however you want, but I like master offer chance, movement speed on boots, a little bit of life. When I say 100 baseline, I mean when you click your character sheet, My Nixie has 167 life, so at least 100 I think is pretty cozy. And then note, we're going to talk about this later as well, that percent increased damage on your gear is multiplicative with the increases from your signs, shrines, boons, and statuses. Percent increased damage on your gear, what does this mean? Layman's terms. Percent increased damage on your gear is good. It's not garbage. It's not, oh, I've got enough increases from other places. No, the increases from your gear is all one bucket, all by itself, and you would like to have increased damage or increased whatever on your gear. I found a new weapon. Is it upgrade? All right, so there's a lot of weapons that'll drop in the game. What are some mental shortcuts that you could use in order to get your character better upgrades? Check the base attack time. I like to have my base attack time as low as possible because I want to be attacking very quickly, because I like luck-based builds that proc things based on luck chance. So I like attacking very, very quickly. It feels very smooth once you do that. Attack damage and attack crit is pretty niche. It does not have much support in the game. Most builds, the vast majority of them, will be spell damage builds. So this is not particularly important to me. That could change at some point. They're fine. They're usable, I guess, but eh. And then remember, once again, any increase on your gear for damage, spell speed, or anything else is multiplicative of all the other increases. Unique, you can read that. There's good gear come to the shop. We talked about that above. This here is kind of worthwhile for you. Are there any stats that some characters want specifically? So we kind of talked about what you might want on some of these characters and why you might want that. Averon has a sign that says it rewards you for building Adept Offer Chance. So having Adept Offer Chance on your knight is pretty good. Krant, if you want to use the thing that takes away all of your armor and turns it into damage, maybe you want to put armor on your Krant. Other than that, you could put attack crit on Krant as well, because he's got a lot of attack damage synergy. Last up, I would say Maris. Having +1 dash boots on Maris is quite nice, because the sign of the time space, which is very fun to use, removes one of your dashes. So having 1 dash is kind of dangerous. Having 2 dashes is much more comfortable if you want to use the sign of time space. Then life on kill allows you to skip justice once you start min-maxing and you want more variety in which gods you want to pick here. Let's go on to the last section here. If you are a veteran player and you've already been playing this game for days and days and days, because it's only been out for 2 weeks or so, you might be interested in the advanced game mechanics. So let's talk about some things that really matter to you tryhards out there, or for new players who just want a better knowledge about the game. So I'm pretty sure all of this is true. This comes from talking with people who build the wiki for this game on Fandom. This comes from talking to the developers themselves on the Discord and testing things with people in my Twitch chat. So this is my advanced game knowledge, and we'll talk about it here. Remember, in general, the sum of all percent increases, damage, cooldown, spell speed, duration, they're all multiplicative. And the signs, shrines, boons, and statuses are all additive together. The exceptions to this are increased experience, all seem to be additive, not multiplicative on your gear. And item pickup chance is additive with other sources of item pickup chance. You might wonder why I say shrines, signs, boons, and statuses. The status, there is a status called marked. If you mark an enemy, technically it says marked enemies take 30% more total damage. What it actually does is it gives you 30% increased damage. Next up, is percent increased damage additive? So let's talk about this here. It's base times sum of gear increases times sum of this, sum of this, sum of this. So there's a better way of looking at it. Then here's some exception cases for you based on winter, and then based once again on winter. Next up is, what is luck? What does it do? A lot of questions about how luck works. Luck specifically does one thing. It is a multiplier to your chance-based procs. I talk about procs in a couple ways, and I try to use very specific language when I communicate. I say chance-based procs, cooldown-based procs, and count-based procs. Those are the 3 kinds of procs that exist in the game. A chance-based proc might happen whenever the trigger happens on a percent chance. A count-based proc is like every 3 attacks, something happens, or every 10 meters that you travel, something happens. And then a cooldown-based proc is something like every 10 seconds, every 5 seconds, every 20 seconds, those things. So luck from boons is multiplicative with luck from your gear because of this formula that we have right here. Luck does not interact with finding better gear. Luck does not interact with crits. And then note here, that luck often does not have a one-to-one effect on a skill. Case in point, Justice has an ability called Smite, an ability called Reprisal that smites the enemy. Let's say it has a 10% smite chance. If you have 100% luck, you would think that the 10% doubles to 20% chance. It doesn't. It goes to like 15 or something. So it is. I used to describe this as non-linear, but it's just not a one-to-one effect. I think it is linear. It just doesn't have a one-to-one effect. Spell speed. It's got the same caveat at the very bottom here about the lack of a one-to-one ratio in every single skill. Some of these, here's a good example for you here. But pretty much the same as luck, right? Just like here's the formula. Speed or cooldown of your non-attack skills, item skills, summons, and statuses. Some of the important stuff about spell speed is if you're a summoner build, you really want spell speed because some spell speed causes your minions to attack faster, which you want. It's really good. A cool interaction with spell speed is that it also scales the speed of the summoner boon that time gives you, and it makes it proc faster so that it ramps up your damage more over your 20-minute run. So there's some cool stuff going on with spell speed. But yeah, it's the speed or cooldown of all of your non-attack skills, item skills, summons, and statuses. Neat. Spell damage, skills, minion damage. This question still pops up in chat with some frequency, so this is a good thing to note. This is some meta information about this for you. I don't prioritize attack crit and attack damage very often. If you're trying to force like an attack-based build, sure, do it. But in general, attack-based builds have much less support than spell-based builds, and I don't value these particular stats very highly. Next up, we have crits, clarifying some of the damage or some of the numbers that are written in game. Technically, crits in game say deal 300% damage, but this actually means 200% more damage. So 100% more damage for you action RPG, Path of Exile gamers out there. 100% more is double, 200% more is triple. So that's where this like triple, this like English language versus gamer language comparison here. So there's only additive critical strike chance. There's no increased critical strike chance. So it's all flat. That is an important thing to know currently. That could change in the future. Next up, let's talk about Darkness. Darkness is the end game of Death Must Die. Currently, it scales up from 0 to 30, 30 being the highest difficulty. If you're looking at somebody's screen while they're playing on YouTube or playing on Twitch, you'll see that there's a number on the top left corner of the screen that'll say, if there's nothing there, it means they're playing in 0 darkness. If it says 15 or 20 or 25 or 30, that is the level of difficulty, and currently 30 is the highest difficulty there. So why would you boost up the darkness? What's the reward for it, Mr. Streamer? It means that you'll find more types of shrines, so there'll be more like events that happen in your rounds. Find cooler stuff, and you also find stronger gear, better base types, and cool affixes on your gear, like a dragon that follows you around, because that's very cool. Take a look at this. Number 9, loot rarity scales up with time in a round. If you're opening up chests within the first 30 seconds of a round, it is very unlikely that you'll find a mythic. But if you're opening up a chest at the 18 or 19 minute of a round, it's very likely that you will find a mythic. So that's kind of interesting here. The last thing is about stat weighting. Stat weighting is one of the reasons that gear is interesting in this game. The numerical strength of affixes on your gear are relative to one another. Hopefully that's perfect and I don't need any more explanation. I hope. I'm actually going to skip this. Let's take a look at this. I think the example does the best job of explaining how this works. So you could find a helmet that has 50 life as the only stat. Like, wow, 50 life. Or you could find a helmet that has 45 life and it also has +1 reroll. So there's like this weighting that goes on here. So you're not going to find, in terms of Path of Exile, an item that has 6 tier 1 affixes on it. That's not going to happen, because the stronger the one item or this one affix is, the weaker the other affixes are going to be relative to that. So this is an important thing that helps you find cool and interesting items. I guess, all right, maybe not cool and interesting. It helps you think about your gearing in a different way, and I like it. I've never played a game that has this kind of stat weighting before, and I kind of like this here. The very last thing that we'll talk about for this guide here is the current best build / best synergy in the game. It is bonkers. It's really strong. Hopefully it gets changed at some point, but this is currently how it works. and I want you to know what's in the game right now and give you a baseline for like what other people are doing and what you can use as a new player to fall back on in case you just need giga damage to carry you through your round. So this is Mort. Why is Mort good? Because everything she does is good. So the best thing in the game right now is called Mayhem. Mayhem gives generic percent increased damage per cursed enemy killed, which means if you can pick up Mayhem early, before like the 3, 4, 5, 6 minute mark, you can pick it up early, you can stack it up the whole game, and then you can just dunk on Dracula when he shows up, which would be great. So your strategy is this: get Mort as one of your 3 gods, get one of these 2 things. Remember, Mayhem is a I guess I can't add this here, but Mayhem has a condition that you need to meet. So get things that apply the curse, Soul Stealer or Ravens, for example. And then best case scenario is to get Mort's basic attack as well, Deadly Strike. So when you do this, you have those couple things. In order to min-max this strategy, you will avoid killing monsters with anything except for these 2 skills because they apply curse, or your Deadly Strike, your basic attack, because it consumes the curse and counts as a cursed enemy when it dies. So you should avoid comboing this with things like Chain Lightning or things like Chains of War, for example, from Crom. You don't want like other procs killing the monsters before your curse has a chance to kill them. Because if you rack up all the kills with your curse, you get like 700% increased damage. So a couple of the reasons that this is so good is it gives a huge amount of damage for a relatively low investment. It kind of shapes the rest of your build, but it is very low investment. You can make this pop off very easily. The Soul Stealer boon, in my opinion, is the best proc in the game. It's a chance-based proc, which means if it's a chance and attack speed, you can make it a proc many, many times. It also deals percent HP damage. So having Soul Stealer just kind of dunks on high health monsters like Dracula, the boss at the end. So it scales very well. Note that curse, when you have this curse stuff going on, being applied by your Soul Stealers and your Ravens, it also scales with 3 times your percent increased spell damage, which it scales because you have Mayhem, and Mayhem gives you percent increased generic damage, which counts into this. It's got a positive feedback loop, and it's kind of insane. It's very, very strong once it gets going. And then you can achieve this synergy without Mort's attack, but stacking Mayhem is obviously easier if you do have Mort's attack boon called Deadly Strike. One important thing to know about this, first of all, this could get changed, it could get nerfed, could be bug fixed or something. Currently, the curse that scales with 3 times your percent increased spell damage, it actually doesn't. It scales with 3 times your percent increased generic damage, which is strange, but Mayhem is generic percent increased damage. So this is actually bugged and dealing less damage than it's supposed to, but it's still totally insane. Hopefully you found as a helpful walkthrough of this guide here. We spent a lot of time putting it together, so hopefully some new players or maybe even some advanced players can use this beginner's guide, or maybe even the advanced mechanics game, the advanced game mechanics section at the very end, to better understand the game and enjoy it, because I've been playing it for about 2 weeks now and it's awesome. I'm gonna go get back to it. Thanks for being here. I'll see you next time.